Oh my God, it's hard out there. I think it's getting to about 36 here in London. Okay. Far cry from where I was in Crete with the pool and the sea. But anyway, can't complain. Right, today's chat. Let's talk about, this question got asked to me the other day, which I thought was quite fun, which was, are there a couple of things that you've done in your career, belief system, ideology, where you've had a complete 180 U-turn on? And the answer is yeah. The first one I'd say is calories, right? The notion of calories. Now, when I started, I was sort of anti-calories because I didn't really need them. I was getting good results without them. I was in the 90s, so teenager in the 90s, where binge drinking, smoking, processed food, all of that sort of binge culture was the sort of norm. And I had jobs in the city and also then in Soho where, busy days, competitive. If you had a good day, you drank. Bad day, you drank. Client entertaining, 3-course meals, and then when you were just busy at work, it would be like, what's quick, what's convenient, what's tasty. So then when I was putting weight on and I wanted to then change my lifestyle and lose weight, I didn't need to, even though at the time I was starting to study nutrition, but you didn't really need a nutrition degree or course to tell you like, well, I just need to kind of do the switch to what everyone knows should be relatively healthy, nutritious foods. Lean meats and fish and legumes and fruits and vegetables. And so before, where I was doing that in a small amount and doing ultra processed convenient stuff like an 80-20, it was like, let's switch those around. Let's get 80% of the good stuff in and leave a little bit of room for some sort of takeaways, the odd bit of indulgence, etc. And it worked for me, and I started to get that working really well for a lot of clients, reversing type 2 diabetes with some, and in sports performance it was doing well. Go figure. You get nutrients and the right food into the body that it recognizes, and it performs both cognitively and also physically. And so, and I was brought in and would always say to people, calorie, the body doesn't understand what a calorie is. Why also do we want to put numbers on certain things that psychologically doesn't fit well for many people and does the opposite? All calories aren't created equal. 500 calories of spinach is treated differently in the body than 500 calories of Snickers, also from a bioavailability point of view. What else? They're not accurate. If you go on the apps, 100 grams of sweet potato in Tesco's will have a different caloric amount than 100 grams of sweet potato in, say, Waitrose. So there was no consistency. And so it became quite messy, and I'd kick all of that into touch, basically just saying that, I was getting results without the use of it, and for many people, so we didn't use it. Anyway, then after working in the industry for a while and seeing, having a portfolio of lots of clients, where over 1,000 clients, I'd be looking in and really looking at their nutrition, looking at how that affected their weight loss, working with them to try and get the results. It's like, why couldn't all of them see it through? Don't get me wrong, I made a really good name for myself with weight loss, and this as well, but way before like GLP-1s and injections and all that were around. We had to do it the old school way, properly, changing behavior, lifestyle, sacrifice. And I still do it that way. But why couldn't a lot of people do it? Why could they start and then stop, even with lots of different methods using fasting, keto, vegan, doesn't matter what it is, high carb, low carb. Why did they keep getting drawn back to the old conditioned patterns of behavior, to the vices, to the indulgences, yo-yo dieting, all of this jazz? So I decided to look at, what are the best dieters in the world doing? Whatever your thoughts are on bodybuilding as a profession or look or anything, let's just look at for over 100 years, they make a profession of getting as lean as possible. So they are the best dieters in the world. And so what things can we nick from them that the general public is going to be useful for them? So I went into looking at calories and the macros, etc. And when I started implementing them, well, then the return of investment for most of the clients and the results went through the roof. Like the ratio then completely changed. More and more people were able to lose weight consistently and to keep it off long term. The reason being was because it allows for variety. It gives you the knowledge which a lot of people have been missing, right? Like what's going on with your food and diet, and what you think is going on completely different with what's going on with reality, with your nutrition. You didn't need a nutrition course or degree to be able to get that knowledge. You could see it unfolding in real time. And it allows inclusion of certain vices and indulgences and takeaways and stuff that people need really to keep that long-term adherence. So it's such a useful tool. You don't need to do it for massive amounts of time. 2 to 4 weeks done properly gives you enough intel to really make those life-changing changes and change the behavior for those that want it. So one thing that always would get unearthed was that I'd be sent photos, clients would send me photos of what they're eating. And you'd get some guy, I don't know what's going on, it must be hormonal, something's wrong with me. They'd send me photos of like apples for breakfast and then a chicken salad for lunch. And then I've had no snacks, just been drinking water. And then for dinner, I've just had some lean fish and some fish and vegetables. Rinse and repeat. And still not losing weight. So it's okay, put some numbers on it for me. So then doing the calorie counting properly, you know, on paper it looked like their diet was great and they were eating a low amount of calories if we were to guesstimate. But when the results came in, it was way higher, because in that nice healthy looking chicken salad was 500 calories of mayonnaise and yogurt, right? So that was north of a Big Mac, hidden in plain sight in that chicken salad. So the cooking oil used to do a stir fry, like a little 1/2 or 3/4 egg cup of olive oil, 300 calories. Picky bits, nicking a few chicken nuggets off the kid's plate. The mocha that was had on the way to the station with a mate quickly that normally wouldn't have been processed or logged. All these little bits and bobs that sort of come into it that were then giving a completely different picture to what in their head their belief system was. So when we would even put some numbers on this, just for fictitious for this thing, most people would think they're eating 1,300, but in reality they're eating 1,800. Then also in their head they think, well, when they do that for a couple of days, that, well, I should be able to lose weight on 1.3, but it's not 1.3 all the time. If it even was 1.3, as I've just said, some days it's 1.8. But when they come to the weekend, they're like, well, I went out, so yeah, I did have a curry, but normally I would have had X, but instead I curtailed it and had Y. So just because they've made little tweaks and been better than they normally would, doesn't always compute to actually it being in a weight loss scenario or even maintenance calories. So even when they're being good and we do the maths and got them to calorie count stuff, we still find that that's a 1,800, 1,900 day. Even in their head, they think they've done enough for it to be good and to be within the caloric amount. So what they think and versus reality is always massively different, and really logging that properly unearths that. And so that knowledge that you gain and insight from that is golden. And as I said, most people don't eat wildly different things week in, week out. Obviously there's variety, but it's not as huge as most people think. When they do just 2 to 4 weeks, you can get a good lay of the land on what should be the right amount of not only quality of foods, but the quantity of foods and portion control. What else? Time, right? A lot of people think, oh, I can't be asked to calorie count. It's like too much, like it takes too long. Right? So it really, really doesn't. This is a perpetuated myth that's easy to steal if you want to cherry pick it because you really can't be bothered to do it in the first place. But for example, if you're making a salad and you've got your bowl on the kitchen counter, chop tomatoes, put it in the bowl. Chop some celery, put it in the bowl. Chop some cucumbers, you put it in the bowl, right? You do the same thing when you're calorie counting. The only difference is instead of the bowl on the kitchen counter, it's on some digital scales. And you have a pen and paper on the counter. So on the scales, scales on, bowl on them, chop your tomatoes, put it in the bowl. Reading in grams. Pen, tomatoes, 56 grams. As I grab the cucumber to cut, I hit 0 on the scale, which then takes that number and puts it to 0. So now I can put my cucumber on top of the tomatoes and get just the reading for the cucumber. Cucumber, 46. Same with the next thing I slice. Put in, I had zeroed it beforehand, write it down. So 3 seconds per ingredient for the writing, where you have like what, 5, 6 things, like 15 seconds to 18 seconds out of your day to write it down. And then later, when I'm on the sofa watching TV during an ad break or not really interested in what we're watching, or after it, if I'm on the toilet or something, I can just get my phone out and just type in the results. Like, it couldn't be easier. So the time it takes is a myth perpetuated by old people like me back in the day when I was anti-calories. So yeah, I think that's about it. It works so well. The one thing people need is the knowledge, because what you think may be a little bit wrong. The other thing is it needs to be inclusive. People, to keep it long term, right? You can be really pumped up, and most people are. The energy that you are at any given moment isn't consistent and constant. So you could have just booked that holiday to the Maldives, dream holiday, and be super pumped up for it. Be like, right, I want to get into bikini, I want to, look X, Y, and Z, lose X amount of weight. Let's go. I'm ready for this. No booze, no sugar, no takeouts. We're not eating any of this. Get rid of all this crisps, chocolate. Let's get it out of here. I don't want it anymore. Right? That doesn't last. You can willpower your way through that to the best of your ability for a decent amount of time before a hen do comes along, a night out, a hen do, stag do, holiday, where then these things come back in, and then you come back from holiday, stag do, or just a really shit day at work and you started downing booze again, and then you can't get back on the horse. These conditioned patterns of behavior sort of creep back in again. And so we want something that's inclusive. And the calorie counting allows you to do that, because you can see, like, okay, if I lose weight at 1,500 calories, but then a bottle of wine is 750, plus my favorite sort of takeout is 800, and so I'm slightly over, plus a bit of breakfast, then you can see where you can rob Peter to pay Paul. How many sort of cheat or indulgent days or meals can I get in, and where do I have to bring that down within the week to still net weight loss over a set amount of time? So it allows you to be really the master of the helm, being able to have that inclusion and variety, and able to steer the ship to still net weight loss as you go along, and just that learning and independence and responsibility is everything. It means that you can go to any system, keto, fasting, and still have knowledge of where to go. And you can use these things not as a set thing, but seasonally. You may find in the summer when it's hotter, you eat less or you fast more and have more salads. And then in the winter, if you add back in more carbohydrates and roasts, you know where you are with it and stuff. So an incredibly good exercise, and one that really does work long term with most clients that don't have medical issues where they have to really exclude food groups. So anyway, that's probably enough of me talking. That is my version on calories, why people should do it. But please feel free to comment and share your version of events where those things may resonate and maybe where they don't.